Today, we're discovering the insane story behind Europe's biggest monument. It is an absolutely mad sight. It's a 300,000-ton megastructure that's over 100 years old and was built as a glorious celebration, but its history took a dark twist.
Whoa, unique and terrifying at the same time. You have never seen anywhere like this before.
It was used as a fortress, the final Nazi holdout in this city, until one brave American walked through this door and used the most cunning and genius plan to trick them into surrendering. From the moment you arrive in the city's great train station, anticipation is already building. I've come to Leipzig in the eastern corner of Germany, heading out looking for the Völkerschlachtdenkmal, or the monument to the Battle of the Nations, which isn't too hard because it can be seen from miles around. Whoa, standing in front of it is the most unreal thing. It is 130 meters wide and 90 meters tall, and it just dwarfs you. By far, one of the most fascinating and notorious things about this place is all of the attempts that there have been to distort and destroy its original meaning. But before I go up here and go inside, what is that original meaning and what does it commemorate? In 1813, over 500,000 troops met right here in the largest battle Europe had ever seen. Napoleon had just failed to invade Russia, and now his army would suffer more casualties here in Leipzig than they even had troops available to them at Waterloo. At this point in history, Germany as you and I know it didn't even exist. It was still a messy patchwork of kingdoms and city-states, but for once in this battle they had actually teamed up, and together with Russians, Swedes and even a few Brits, they forced Napoleon to surrender and retreat even further west, permanently destroying any hopes of a French empire this side of the Rhine. It was seen as the first ever pan-German victory, and it presented a major opportunity. A fitting memorial might just become the icon that finally inspires that patchwork to unite into one nation, if you could only find the right design. What we today make of that design and how it's since been co-opted by different forms of German nationalism, we'll see when we get inside. But the mission statement was this: if there is to be a memorial, it must be large and magnificent, like a colossus or a pyramid. That was written by one German poet straight after the battle, and I'm very pleased to be able to bring it to this video, as well as everything that I learned from all of the German language signs in a nearby museum, purely because I learned a second language. So a big shout out to the sponsor who made this video possible, LingoPie. When you start to learn a language, there are so many boring tasks that people tell you to do. But what if you could instead learn by immersing yourself in the local culture and media of that country? That's the idea behind LingoPie, a watch and learn streaming platform with thousands of TV shows and movies in 14 languages, who are the sponsors of today's video and offering you a lovely discount. On LingoPie, you can watch authentic content with interactive subtitles that explain the vocabulary and the grammar used in the show. When I first started learning German, I downloaded all the normal boring flashcard decks, but they weren't engaging because I had no relationship with the cards. But with LingoPie, when you see a word or phrase you don't know, you can add it to your flashcards for studying later. So pretty soon I instead had an entire deck of words that I remember the context they were used in what particular storyline and sentence, and how the actor said them. This is exactly what you need to take your immersion time from lazy TV watching to real active learning. And for me personally, within a month of doing this, I was not just equipped to speak better German, enabling me to travel all around this country solo as I have done, learning about its history and seeing its beautiful places, but also while doing that, I could relate to the shows that local people were watching too. Whether you want to feel more capable when traveling to Germany, Italy, Japan, or so many other countries, get full access to the LingoPie platform now with a 7-day free trial and 55% off your annual plan with the link in the description. In order to design and build this absolute behemoth, you must first overcome 3 problems. 1. How do you pay for it? Transporting and sculpting thousands of tons of granite and setting them on new foundations on what basically used to be a swamp would take a small fortune. That's what one local architect and Freemason named Clemens Thiemer hoped to overcome. By the 1890s, Prussia and all the other kingdoms have finally been unified into a thing called Germany, ruled by a guy known as the Kaiser, and Thiemer argues that spiritually this new nation was really born here in Leipzig, where the ancient soul of the Germanic peoples rose up to fight off the French. He's hoping to properly commemorate the fallen by the centenary in 1913, and together with thousands of volunteers, he orchestrates a grassroots donations campaign and local lotteries that somehow raise the enormous sum of what in today's money would be around $50 million. In pre-First World War Germany, that is extremely impressive. Our 10-meter tall friend here, standing watch over the entrance, is the Archangel Michael, one of the patron saints of the Germanic people. He's a warrior god who is supposed to defend and protect them. So characters like this are a sure thing to feature in the design somehow, but the second problem was, how exactly should it look? How do you glorify this new unified Germany? Neo-Renaissance? No, Italy has just become a country too, and we can't be bigging them up. Gothic? No, annoyingly people just see that as French now. So Thieme worked together with architects Bruno Schmitz and Franz Metzner to design this. An incredible attempt to manifest this imagined ancient nature of the raw primal German spirit that really defies all attempts at describing it. Here we go.
Wow. You've never seen anything like this.
And I bet you it has a really interesting view from the top as well. But I have just seen a sign saying how many hundreds of stairs it is, so wish me luck. The ground floor represents a crypt, a symbolic mass grave watched over for all eternity by the guardians of the dead and the masks of fate. Above them stand 4 colossal 10-meter tall sentinels, each personifying a German virtue that supposedly led them to glory. Bravery, faith, the people's strength, and sacrifice. You constantly have the immense weight of these huge giants of mythology staring down at you. It wraps up German nationalism in an almost religious packaging, which, if you know what's about to come straight after its construction, is a pretty bold move. It took 15 years to build and weighs 300,000 tons. That meant that they had to overcome the third problem. Where do you even find enough granite? The local village of Beucher can attest to that, where everything except the church was quarried all around. The gap left behind has since been flooded and looks kind of cool, but it was one big sacrifice for the purpose of building this memorial.
Whew, getting there.
The opening ceremony took place here on the exact 100-year anniversary of the battle, the 18th of October 1913, attended by over 100,000 people, including Kaiser Wilhelm II himself.
Not for the claustrophobic or the faint of heart though, you'd have to admit.
Whoa, yeah, the view is incredible. Definitely worth climbing up to the top for. The Kaiser, of course, was out of a job fairly soon after the opening ceremony here due to losing the First World War, which was particularly awkward when you've just opened a huge memorial to a battle where Germany and Russia were actually on the same side. And his departure suddenly leaves this Leviathan on very shaky ground because of something that a lot of visitors even today notice. It's an incredible physical testament to a very abstract thing. It was deliberately designed in this timeless mythic way, but that just made it a blank canvas. Anyone with any agenda could say that it means anything that suits them, and so the memorial went through its ideological chameleon era, hosting rallies from every polar extreme of Weimar politics. And when a certain party gets in the 1930s and 40s, this place is in serious danger. So when they walk into Leipzig, they go, look at that, it's perfect. This of course represents everything that we've been saying about the folk and their strength. In reality, of course, they should have hated it because it really commemorates a group of nations coming together to fight off a tyrant. And of course, it was designed and built way before their ideology even existed. But of course, they never let a small matter like the truth get in their way, and they still used it for creepy initiation ceremonies and torch processions and as a rally ground. But by 1945, their war is not going so well, and the Allies are deep into Germany. The Americans arrive in Leipzig on the 18th of April 1945, and the city's commandant retreats into this memorial with a few hundred SS fanatics and Home Guard members and a handful of American and French prisoners as hostages. The Americans sweep through the rest of the city until this is the final Nazi holdout. They fire a few shells at it, which mostly bounce away, and they are locked in the most symbolic standoff in world history. And it's such an unbelievable scene to imagine. This had previously been their rallying ground, the site of one of the biggest battles of all time, and now they are holed up in there, literally using it like a medieval fortress, shooting out of the balconies and the little gaps between the artworks, hiding behind their ancient mythical defender that they hope has woken up to protect them, but All along this side are lined American tanks, and somebody is going to break the deadlock in the most genius way. The Americans have a negotiator, Hans Trefus. He was born in Germany but fled to America, so he speaks both languages and is probably the only person on Earth who would have come up with this idea. He approaches this door holding a white flag and enters into an intense 11-hour-long overnight negotiation with the German commandant, literally under the eyes of these immense statues. The commandant says that they have orders from the top to fight to the death, and he's refusing all of Trefus's terms. But Trefus knows Germans. He appeals to actual historical Prussian military values, the kind that defeated Napoleon in the first place, and he says that the honourable thing to do would be to give up your fanaticism and think pragmatically about the lives of your men who are surrounded. And then he remembers everything that he was forced to read as a child in German primary school. He brings up a classic German play by von Kleist, in which the protagonist wins a moral victory by disobeying direct orders, knowing that it's for the greater good of the nation. It's an absolute last gasp long shot, using actual German history and a real shared literary culture to try to wake these guys up from their party brainwashing. But it works. At 2 AM, the commandant agrees that they'll surrender and leave. The Americans walk in to complete their liberation of Leipzig peacefully, without having to destroy the memorial, and that is the reason that you and I get to visit it today. To plan your own trip here, you'll find more information in the description, and also the link to sign up and get your discount for Lingo Pie.